City of Anderson to order. We will start with an invocation by Maurice McKenzie.
Okay, let us pray. Lord, thank you for this beautiful day, and thank you for the opportunity for all of us to gather here this evening to discuss items that are impactful to our community, and we ask that you provide us guidance and wisdom and help us to make decisions that are pleasing in your sight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the August 2nd. Hopefully everybody received their packet and was able to look through it. Any changes needed or anything need to be addressed from the minutes? Here none, would someone like to make a motion they be approved? Carter, make a motion to be approved in its second. Herbert seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Any addenda to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Going to other business, SD 2205 and 06. Start with Bailey Creek Commons.
Very good. Thank you. And these are really two phases of the same development, but we broke them down into two separate ones because one of the phases is townhouse development, the other is a single-family residential development, and quite frankly, it presents better this way, and also the applicant submitted the plans in two different phases for this matter. And you are familiar with this because earlier in the year, this came to you for annexation and zoning for the entire, it's just under 100 acres in total. And you can see it outlined in green. This is Old Williamson Road. This is Simpson Road. It came to you as a PDD, Plan Development District, and you did recommend approval of that, and ultimately it did go to City Council. I believe it was approved in March, where there is going to be a single-family development attached here, and then townhouse units located right here. The conceptual plans that were submitted to you back then really are very close to what you see today. But as a matter of fact, one area in particular, the single-family area, I believe when it came to you, it had 199 houses. That has since been reduced to 175. So there were some discussions, negotiations, some changes made throughout the annexation process with City Council and hearing from the public. So that's one thing that has changed. Actually, the density was reduced. But I'll go over this in two different pieces. We'll first talk about this area on the southern end, and it's known as Bailey Creek Commons, and it's a 30.7 acre portion of this two-phase development, and a total of 178 townhouse units are proposed for the property. You have a larger plans in front of you, but I can show you this. It's broken down really into two pieces. One part comes off of Simpson Road, located right here, right across from Carlstown Way, which is an apartment complex directly across the street. And the townhouse development is a linear pattern. It continues on, as you can see here. And one piece, we can discuss it a little bit more. There's some connectivity between the two phases. Right here, you can see where this road goes through a little traffic circle, and it connects to the single-family piece of property. So that's good because it gives you multiple points of ingress and egress for the entire development. The property is zoned PDD, Plan Development District, and as I mentioned, that's something that you saw a few months ago, and for the PDD document, it requires development specifications that are specific to these properties, such as lot sizes, density, other requirements. Now, for this particular development, in addition to the other specs that you'll see in the PDD document, it states this property is to be constructed for townhouse use only. The minimum allowable lot size is 2,124 square feet for interior units and 2,934 square feet for exterior units. And those standards are met per the plan. And the PDD standards also require at least 10% open space, and it is far exceeded on the townhouse development. There's actually 46.8% of the property is open space, so almost half of the property is open space. Again, I mentioned that the development connects to the single-family portion of the development, which is called Bailey Creek Reserve, and we'll get to that in a moment. And again, it provides multiple egress opportunities. Also, in the Bailey Creek Reserve portion, and we'll go over it in a minute, it has a connectivity point for pedestrians leading into Glenview Middle School. So what that will do is provide every resident, either in the single-family development or in the townhouse development, access via pedestrian activity to Glenview Middle School, which could help alleviate some traffic congestion that may be added to this general area. But again, like I said, this came before you and the city council to talk about the specifics regarding density, types of uses, things like that earlier. Tonight before you are the approvals of the preliminary plat. And in order to get subdivision plat approval, there's several things that must be addressed on the plat, which you're familiar with. You've been seeing a few of these lately. But general things like map drawn to scale, name and location of subdivision, name and owner of surveyor, the north arrow, scale, information about adjacent parcels of land, boundary lines, street layout, proposed lot lines and lot numbers, location of the streets and easements, with water lines, sewer lines, also building setback lines being shown on the plat, availability of utilities, things of that nature are required on the preliminary plat in order to get approval. And the staff, we do recommend conditional approval of this tonight, and the only reason for the condition is the fact that back in March, the city passed a pretty robust tree preservation ordinance, and these were the first guys to get to deal with it because it was passed pretty much simultaneously with their adoption. So they are subject to the tree ordinance. Now, they have conducted their tree survey and in the process now of finalizing all the layout and the areas for tree preservation. But these plans tonight, both of them, were actually drawn with those tree areas and tree safe areas in mind. We just don't have the final details yet. So once we get those, we can approve that at staff level. We'll compare it and make sure it meets the requirements in the existing layout of what you see here tonight. If for some reason it changes because of the tree ordinance, then we'll revisit the plans again at a later date. But it appears that it will meet our guidelines based on the tree survey that's been conducted. So we do recommend conditional approval, and by giving approval, it does allow the developer authorization to proceed under the supervision of the city engineer with all of the design work, staking of lots, utilities, things of that nature. Now, be glad to answer any questions for this one. We could go into the next one, however you wish to do it. Also, the applicant is here, or representing the applicant's the engineer, and he's representing for both projects tonight.
How many people are we talking about?
People?
Yes.
With 178 units, again, with townhouses, you're talking, I think the general standard for a townhouse is around potentially up to 2 people per unit. For single family, it's like 2.3, 2.5, and again, that's just a general standard.
Dave, where are you going with your question? I was wondering the same thing with just traffic and population.
And Glenview is full.
Yeah.
Glenview is full.
Okay. Yeah, we've the school district, they're very aware of all the development taking place, not just on this particular site, but as you know, around the Midway Elementary School area. It's just a high growth area, probably due in part to the fact there's schools in the area, and that's a big draw for a lot of development activity. But again, these densities of units on both phases have already been approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council.
But I would like to just be noted that we are concerned about the infrastructure, both schools, roads. I mean, I know that we had talked about Simpson Road and how he's done a great job with the entrance and egress of the on the Simpson Road side, but possibly putting 700 more cars on Simpson Road and Old Williamson Road. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, but it does.
Well, it doesn't. For this, it does not necessarily. But again, it was a big point throughout the process, particularly traffic. Correct. And as a matter of fact, our city council, they recommended to work with the DOT because particularly Old Williamson Road is a state road, but to work with them not only in this area, but really if you think about it, Old Williamson Road, the entire corridor from Crestview, that intersection, all the way down to Calhoun Academy of the Arts, all the way through into town, that general area, not just on Old Williams, but Midway or Calhoun Street as well, but all those streets need to have further study for traffic flow, additional lanes, turn lanes. And so that's one thing that we've been asked to continue to address and look into through our ANAT's long-range plan.
And with having someone on city council that's with the school district, just have them really notate that.
Right. Yes, correct. They're aware of all the development projects taking place. So again, you think about build out with these. It's put it this way: back in January of 2021, we approved 131 acres to be annexed out by Midway Elementary School. That was January 2021. In the summer of 2022, the first 5 to 10 building permits were pulled for that development. So as you can tell, it takes a while for things to develop. It gives schools opportunities to plan for their growth as well.
Question for staff is this a sidewalk all the way on one side of these? Because you talked about the pedestrian, the walkability between there and Glenview.
Yep, every street has at least one, some have two.
Yeah, I saw that. It looks like it's at least on one side. I just want to make sure that's what I was seeing.
Certainly something we wanted to have in this development and future developments is that pedestrian flow, the connectivity to Glenview School. Those are things that are really important amenities now. So.
Well, keeping people on the interior of these, I think, is a great idea. To keep them off the road and having the parents be able to, or folks be able to walk.
No doubt. There's a lot of value in sidewalks, and I think that definitely helps to sell units too.
And for the tree ordinance, I do see there's some common spaces and things like that. Is that kind of what that's going to?
That's a lot of
it's keeping hardwoods, Okay.
Yeah, essentially it's 130 caliper inches per acre. Don't want to bore you with all those details, but a lot of the trees to be preserved will be located there. But again, they do require street trees. Per PDD documents, street trees and other landscaping throughout the development. So it's not like you're going to have a cluster of trees that meet the ordinance in one little corner. It has to be addressed throughout.
Okay. So what you're looking for right now on SD 2205 for the townhomes, is plat approval under the condition of meeting the new tree ordinance,
yes,
correct?
Sir.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for staff or applicant on the townhomes? Yes, Carter.
I have a question. Does the Department of Transportation help the schools with their pickup and drop-off plans, or are they just on their own in a vacuum?
That's a great question. I don't think they necessarily do. And again, sometimes schools are located on streets that are not DOT maintained, but I don't know if they are required to go through the DOT. I do know that the Department of Education is a state-run agency, so they may have that connection. For instance, if they're with a school being built, the plans do not go through the city of Anderson or whatever governmental agency it is. It goes through the state and Department of Education. So they may have that link, some sort of connection with that. But again, I don't know the answer to that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
For city council.
I'll certainly ask that question and find out, and I can let you know how that
I'd like
works.
to know that, because it seems like you look at what a mess it is, and there has to be a better way to do it.
I think it's disjointed. I think to answer your question, as a parent, it's not.
Yeah. I feel as if, again, I don't know if this is just talking out loud on television, which is not good probably, but no, I just, they work with the local law enforcement agencies a lot of times,
right,
providing school crossing guards and things like that. I don't know if it goes to the DOT level, but I'll definitely ask.
Thank you.
All right, here, there's our concerns that are not privy to this, so we can go ahead and look at SD 2205 for the Bailey Creek Commons. Does anyone have anything else to add or take away? Hearing none, I will say that I will make a motion that we approve approve as submitted under the condition of the tree. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Dave seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So we'll now move on to SD 2206, the single-family correction.
And kind of discussed a little bit about how they are in relation to one another, but this is regards to this rectangular portion on Old Williamson Road. Glenview Middle School is adjacent to this property and borders it to the north. Cobb's Glen Subdivision and golf course is located across Old Williamson Road. And again, same time frame, this came before you, before City Council in March. There was a recommendation of approval. Initially, it was 199 houses. It's now down to 175 houses. This is called Bailey Creek Reserve, and it is also zoned PDD, Plan Development District, and that has specific development specifications listed in that document, everything from lot sizes, density, various development-related items in that. But in terms of the PDD document, or in terms of the subdivision plan, there are other specifications that we typically look at with a preliminary plat approval, and one being to make sure that the minimum allowable lot size is met, and in the PDD document, it is 7,000 square feet minimum lot size. The average is 9,203 in this development, and the City Council also requested, as we went through the process, that they place the larger lots closer to Old Williamson Road and let the higher density, if you will, taper back down as you go throughout the development. But these colors represent different mixes, different categories of lot sizes. So it kind of tapers down somewhat as you go to the back. This road here is the road that connects to Bailey Creek Commons. In this area right here, I guess you could say it does that number here. It comes down to a little traffic circle to provide traffic calming. But again, you have a point of ingress, egress on Old Williamson Road, and you also have the option to meander down to Simpson Road as well. Now, with the pedestrian connectivity, we talked earlier about sidewalks. They are planned in this development. You have a point of connectivity to Glenview Middle School. I can't see it on here, but I believe that's it right there. We can have that connection point. So students can walk to the school if they so desire. Again, this is a preliminary plat approval, and what we look for in this exercise is a lot of the basic things: map drawn to scale, name and location of subdivision, name of owner and surveyor, north arrow, date, scale, boundary lines of the subdivision, the proposed street layout, lot lines, lot numbers, building setback lines, availability of utilities, things of that nature. And again, similar to the previous one, Bailey Creek Commons, we do recommend approval of this with that same condition, making sure that once the results from that tree survey are completed and the landscaping plan is designed to make sure it meshes with this proposed layout. But again, this is something that's been scrutinized by the developer and the engineer to ensure that this layout will be able to accommodate the landscaping and the tree preservation per our new ordinance. So we come to you tonight for approval on a conditional level for Bailey Creek Reserve, which is the 67.8 acre portion of this two-phase development.
I would have to say that I'm disappointed in the city's tree ordinance. A 6-inch tree with a 4-inch canopy, it takes you 30 years to be.
Well, actually, that's just what was written in the PDD document. The tree ordinance is much more than that, and it reserves, and it requires the preservation of the existing trees on the site too. Yep. There's huge penalties if you cut down the larger oaks, and then you have to do a recompense where you have to add a lot more trees. So that, what you see in the PDD document is one level, then the new tree ordinance that was passed, that's the significance of it. It provides a lot more tree preservation. Yes, sir, but good point to bring that up, because there's 2 or 3 moving parts right now with the tree ordinance. We're working on updating our comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance information. Well, you are aware of that because of the kickoff to our comprehensive plan process. But once we go through that process over the next year, we will kind of blend together all of our guidelines so it'll be more consistent throughout.
I think the class that we took at the Civic Center about walking your land before you think about building was one of the best classes I've ever had. It was really good.
Yeah, very important.
I see that the Mulch walking trail, this might be something for the developer, the Mulch walking trail looks like it connects to the Bailey Creek Commons, but I didn't see it on that plat. Is that something that's going to be added? Okay.
Yes, sir, it just wasn't shown on that other, we do have it.
Okay. All right. Because it does make it kind of connect around the back to the school, so I do notice that, so that's good. Any other questions for staff or developer? Here none, I will put forth the motion that we approve under the condition of the new tree ordinance is recognized in this. Does someone want to second that motion?
Second.
Herbert seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so both of these will go before City Council.
Well, actually, it starts with you, and now we work with the applicant on meeting the conditions. Now, if something significantly changes because of something like that, it will come back to you again potentially.
Okay. Will you take our concerns in front of City Council as far as traffic on Old Williamson Road, Simpson Road, as well as schools?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to find out about the communication between the DOT and school districts on their traffic control plans.
Okay.
I think that's the main gist of
Well,
that
it's
part.
just, I think our growth is outpacing our infrastructure right now.
It is,
And it's something we need to.
Yeah, I'll make a point of that to address that with the city council, a concern for me, not just for this development, but for any development.
Future.
And again, throughout this process, and the applicant can agree that I believe this was submitted in like July of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't approved until March of 2022 because of the public input, because
Correct.
of the meetings, because of the involvement that you had as a planning commission. So it was a lengthy process, but again, traffic was a common theme.
Correct. I mean, just on what the developer saw on Simpson Road, moving that kind of away from that curve was done. But I think the city council need to start, our local government needs to start going to Department of Transportation and taking a leadership role in that instead of just saying it's the state's problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it's all of our problem.
Yeah.
Four-way stop just doesn't work when you got all these cars and trucks coming through there.
Correct. All right. Since there's no addenda to the agenda, we will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for your time tonight.